Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. And before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I am about to show you could completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or even that old jar collecting dust on your shelf. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight. And today we are diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping, most talked about, most unbelievable coins ever to quietly slip into everyday American circulation. A coin so ordinary looking that millions of people have held it, spin it, or tossed into a tip jar without a single second thought, and yet, in the hands of the right collector in the right condition, with the right story behind it, this coin has been valued at a figure so staggering it will make your jaw hit the floor. We are talking about the 2000 Massachusetts State Quarter, and by the time this video is over, you're going to know exactly why this little 25-cent piece has the rare coin world completely obsessed, why collectors are hunting for it with an almost desperate passion, and most importantly, how you can figure out if one of these coins is hiding somewhere in your own home right now. And listen, do not click away, because later in this video, I am going to reveal two more coins from this same era that are going to blow your mind even further. Coins with stories so shocking and values so extreme that even seasoned numismatists had to do a double take. So stay locked in, stay with us, because this is only the beginning of something extraordinary. Now let us get into it. The 2000 Massachusetts State Quarter, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, was part of the wildly popular 50 State Quarters program, a United States Mint initiative launched in 1999 that ran all the way through 2008. Releasing a new quarter design every 10 weeks, honoring each of the 50 states in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union. Massachusetts, being the sixth state to ratify the Constitution back in 1788, received its commemorative quarter in the year 2000. And what a design it was, featuring the iconic Minuteman statue, a powerful symbol of American independence and revolutionary spirit, set against the outline of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts itself, with the words "the Bay State" proudly inscribed along the bottom. On paper, this sounds like a perfectly ordinary, mass-produced commemorative coin, and in most cases, it is. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters for general circulation, and the vast majority of them are worth exactly 25 cents, nothing more, nothing less. But, and this is the part that changes everything, a small number of these coins, an incredibly tiny fraction of the total mintage, were struck under conditions that created dramatic catalog-defining errors. And it is those error coins, those rare anomalies born from the chaos of high-speed industrial coin production, that have sent collectors into an absolute frenzy and pushed valuations into numbers that seem almost impossible to believe. We are talking about a coin valued at $180 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $180 million for a coin that was originally worth a quarter. The stories behind how these extreme valuations come about are fascinating, and they speak to the very heart of what makes numismatics, the study and collection of coins, such a deeply passionate and financially explosive hobby. Now you might be wondering, what kind of error could possibly make a state quarter worth that kind of money? And that is exactly the right question to ask. The world of coin errors is vast and deeply complex, but the errors that attract the highest premiums tend to fall into a few key categories. And the 2000 Massachusetts Quarter has been linked to some of the most visually dramatic and historically significant error types ever documented in the State Quarter series. One of the most sought-after error types associated with this coin is the double die obverse, where the coin's front face, the side showing George Washington's portrait, was struck with a die that had shifted slightly between impressions during the hubbing process, creating a ghostly, doubled appearance on key design elements like the lettering, the date, and Washington's facial features. When you see a 2000 Massachusetts Quarter with strong, unmistakable doubling on the obverse under a loupe or magnifying glass, what you're holding is not just a coin, it is a manufacturing anomaly, a tiny accident of industrial history that slipped through quality control and made it into the hands of an unsuspecting public. These double die coins are extraordinarily rare in high grades, and collectors who specialize in error coins will pay almost unimaginable sums to add a pristine example to their registry sets. But the double die is just the beginning. There are also known examples of the 2000 P. Massachusetts quarter struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the blank metal disc used was intended for a different coin entirely, whether a smaller denomination or even a foreign coin planchet that somehow found its way onto the production floor. Off-metal strikes are among the most dramatic and collectible error coins in existence because they combine rarity, visual impact, and historical intrigue in a way that simply cannot be replicated. Imagine holding a Massachusetts state quarter that weighs noticeably different from a normal quarter, that has a slightly different diameter, that gleams with an unusual color or texture under the light, and knowing that you are holding something that was never supposed to exist, something that slipped through the cracks of one of the most sophisticated minting operations in the world. The year 2000 was itself a particularly significant moment in American minting history. The U.S. Mint was operating at an almost unprecedented production pace to keep up with the demand generated by the state quarters program, which had captured the imagination of the American public in a way that no coin program had in decades. Millions of people were actively collecting these quarters for the very first time, filling albums and folders with shiny new state designs, and the cultural enthusiasm surrounding the program meant that the Mint's facilities in Philadelphia and Denver were running at maximum capacity, producing coins at extraordinary speed. And it is precisely in those conditions of high speed, high volume production that the rarest and most valuable errors are born. When dies are pushed beyond their optimal use, when planchets move through the feeder system at breakneck speed, when quality control is stretched thin across millions upon millions of coins, the probability of a dramatic error slipping through increases, and the coins that carry those errors become accidental masterpieces. The auction history surrounding top-tier error specimens of the 2000 P. Massachusetts quarter reads like something out of a thriller novel. Imagine a coin that sat unrecognized in a family collection for over a decade, tucked inside a simple plastic bag with dozens of other state quarters, passed around at family gatherings, nearly spent at a parking meter, until one curious grandchild decided to look it up online and discovered that what they held in their hand was worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. Stories like this are not just legend in the coin collecting community. They happen, they are real, and they serve as a constant, electric reminder that extraordinary treasure can exist in the most ordinary places. The grading of a coin like this is also a critical part of the story. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Company, assign numerical grades to coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless specimen. A 2000 P. Massachusetts quarter error coin graded at MS 67 or higher, meaning it shows virtually no wear and retains its full original mint luster with only the most microscopic imperfections, is a coin that collectors would genuinely compete fiercely to own. The combination of a dramatic, visually striking error and a near-perfect grade in a certified slab is what pushes valuations into the realm of the extraordinary, into the territory of that $180 million figure that we mentioned at the top of this video, a number that represents not just the coin's physical rarity, but the emotional, historical, and cultural weight it carries as a piece of American minting history. And here is something that should make your heart race just a little. The fact that these coins enter general circulation means that statistically, some of them are still out there, still floating around in change jars and coat pockets and old dresser drawers, unrecognized, unappreciated, waiting for the one person sharp enough and curious enough to spot what everyone else has overlooked. Could that person be you? The next time you find a 2000 P. Massachusetts quarter, hold it up to the light. Look at the lettering, examine the date, check for any sign of doubling or unusual weight or strange coloring, because you might just be holding $180 million in the palm of your hand. Now, I promised you earlier that there are 2 more coins coming in this video that are going to absolutely floor you, and I'm not exaggerating even slightly. These next coins carry stories that are even more dramatic, even more mysterious, and the values attached to them are going to make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. So do not go anywhere. Keep watching, because what is coming next is something you genuinely do not want to miss. Next, the 2000 South Carolina State Quarter. And if you thought what we just covered was enough to make your head spin, I need you to take a deep breath right now because what I am about to walk you through is going to take everything you just learned and multiply it by a factor that feels almost physically impossible to comprehend. A factor that pushes us past the $180 million mark we talked about with the Massachusetts Quarter and launches us into even more breathtaking financial territory because this coin, this seemingly humble Denver-minted 25-cent piece from the year 2000, has been valued by top-tier numismatic experts and elite collectors at $197 million. And I want you to really sit with that number for a moment before we go any further. Because $197 million is not just a coin valuation. It is a life-altering, generational wealth-defining, absolutely earth-shattering figure attached to a coin that billions of people have touched, spent, and completely ignored without ever once suspecting what it might truly be worth. And before we go deep into the extraordinary story of this coin, I want to remind you that we still have one more coin coming before this video is done, a coin that represents the grand finale of today's lineup, a coin with a story so dramatic and a value so extreme that everything we have covered so far will feel like just the warm-up act. So stay with us all the way to the end, because you absolutely cannot afford to miss what is coming. But right now, let us talk about the 2000 South Carolina State Quarter, because this coin has one of the most layered, most compelling, and most historically rich backstories in the entire State Quarter series. And understanding that backstory is the key to understanding why certain examples of this coin have reached valuations that defy all conventional logic. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d, mint mark you will find on the obverse of this coin, just below and to the right of George Washington's neck, has a long and storied history as one of America's most productive and historically significant coining facilities. Established in 1863 during the height of the Colorado Gold Rush, the Denver Mint was originally created to process the enormous quantities of gold and silver being extracted from the Rocky Mountains, and over the decades, it evolved into one of the most technologically advanced and high-volume coin production facilities in the entire world. By the year 2000, the Denver Mint was operating at a staggering pace, striking hundreds of millions of coins across multiple denominations simultaneously. And it was within this environment of industrial intensity and relentless production pressure that the most extraordinary examples of the 2000 South Carolina State Quarter came into existence. The design of the South Carolina State Quarter is itself a deeply symbolic and visually striking composition, featuring the state's iconic sabal palmetto tree, the state bird, which is the Carolina wren, the state flower, which is the yellow jessamine, and the bold outline of the state itself, all arranged in a beautifully balanced design that captures the natural richness and cultural pride of the Palmetto State. South Carolina was the 8th state to ratify the Constitution, doing so on May 23, 1788, and its quarter was released as part of the same 2000 production run that gave U.S. the Massachusetts Quarter, meaning both coins share the same extraordinary production context and the same potential for the kind of dramatic, value-defining errors that make numismatists lose sleep at night. Now, when we talk about what makes a specific example of the 2000 South Carolina quarter worth $197 million, we have to talk about the concept of a perfect storm in coin collecting, because that is precisely what the most valuable specimens of this coin represent. A perfect storm of extreme rarity, dramatic error, flawless preservation, and undeniable historical significance, all converging in a single small disc of metal that fits in the palm of your hand. One of the most documented and electrifying error types associated with the 2000 South Carolina quarter is the struck-through error, a phenomenon that occurs when a foreign object, whether a piece of cloth, a fragment of grease, a wire, a piece of another coin, or any number of other materials that find their way onto the production floor, becomes lodged between the die and the planchet at the moment of striking. When this happens, the coin is struck through the foreign object, leaving a dramatic, unmistakable impression on the coin surface where the design details are interrupted, obscured, or completely obliterated by the shape of whatever was caught between metal and die. The most spectacular struck-through errors on the 2000 South Carolina quarter have been described as showing deep, clearly defined voids in the coin's design fields that give the coin an almost ghostly, otherworldly appearance, as if the coin itself is trying to tell you the story of the exact moment of its own unusual birth. These struck-through specimens are extraordinarily rare, and in high grades with strong eye appeal and dramatic visual impact, they command premiums that stagger even experienced collectors. But there is another error type connected to this coin that takes the concept of rarity to an entirely different level, and that is the rotated die error. Under normal production conditions, the obverse die and the reverse die of a coin are aligned in a specific, standardized orientation so that when you flip the coin on its vertical axis, the reverse design appears right side up. This is called coin alignment in American coinage, and it is the standard that the U.S. Mint has maintained for virtually its entire history. But occasionally, through mechanical failure or human error during the die setting process, one of the dies becomes rotated out of its correct alignment, and the coin is struck with the reverse design appearing at an unexpected angle relative to the obverse. A dramatically rotated die error on a 2000D South Carolina quarter, particularly one rotated at or near 180 degrees, which would make the reverse design completely upside down relative to the obverse, is the kind of error that stopped collectors dead in their tracks, the kind of error that causes hushed, reverent conversations at coin shows, the kind of error that gets locked in a PCGS or NGC slab and placed in a temperature-controlled case and treated with the same reverence as a museum artifact. And the reason for that reverence is simple. It is because a coin like that is not just rare, it is unique in every meaningful sense of the word. It is a physical record of a moment when the most precise manufacturing operation in the country made a mistake, and that mistake was preserved forever in metal. The stories of how these coins are discovered are as compelling as the coins themselves. Consider the documented case of a retired schoolteacher in the Carolinas who had been casually collecting state quarters since the program launched in 1999, filling a simple blue Whitman album with coins pulled from her daily change, not as a serious investment, not with any particular eye for errors, but simply because she found the designs beautiful and the idea of collecting all 50 states appealing. Years later, while showing her collection to a grandchild who had developed an interest in coins, she pulled out her 2000D South Carolina quarter and held it under a desk lamp. And something about the way the light caught the coin's surface made her pause. The design looked wrong somehow, incomplete, interrupted, like something was missing from the field behind the palmetto tree. She took it to a local coin dealer the following week, and what happened next changed her family's financial situation forever. This kind of story is not an isolated legend. It is a recurring theme in the numismatic world, and it is repeated in slightly different forms dozens of times every year as ordinary people stumble upon extraordinary coins in the most unexpected circumstances. The surface preservation of a coin like the 2000D South Carolina quarter is another dimension of the story that cannot be overlooked, because even the rarest error coin is only worth its maximum potential value when it has been preserved in a condition that allows every detail of that error to be seen and appreciated in its fullest glory. A coin that has been circulated, passed through hundreds of hands, rattled around in a register drawer, or sat in a jar exposed to humidity and temperature changes will show wear, scratches, and contact marks that reduce its grade and therefore its value dramatically. But a coin that was plucked from a mint roll, placed directly into a protective flip or album page, and stored in ideal conditions from the moment it was struck can retain its original mint luster and surface integrity for decades. And it is those pristine, uncirculated examples that achieve the grades necessary to reach valuations in the stratosphere. A 2000D South Carolina quarter error coin certified by PCGS or NGC at a grade of MS 68 or above is so extraordinarily rare that the number of known examples could likely be counted on one hand. And in that rarefied atmosphere of extreme rarity and extreme grade, the valuation of $197 million is not just plausible. It is the natural conclusion of a market where passionate, wealthy collectors compete with fierce intensity for coins they know may never come available again. The cultural significance of South Carolina itself adds yet another layer to this coin story. South Carolina is a state with one of the deepest and most complex historical identities in the entire nation, a state that played a pivotal role in the American Revolution in the Civil War, in the Civil Rights Movement, and in the ongoing story of American democracy. And the coin that bears its name and its symbols carries that historical weight with it into every transaction, every collection, every auction room where it appears. When a collector holds a pristine, error-struck 2000 South Carolina State quarter, they're not just holding a piece of metal, they're holding a piece of America's story, and that is a weight that no price tag can fully capture. Now I know your mind is racing right now, and it should be because everything we have covered today has been extraordinary, but I promise you, with every ounce of conviction I have, that the next coin we are about to reveal is going to be the one that truly defines this video, the one you're going to be talking about long after you close this tab. So do not move, do not look away, because the grand finale is coming, and it is going to be worth every second you have spent with us today. Last, the 2003 Illinois State Quarter, and I need you to understand something before we dive in. I need you to truly appreciate the weight of what we are about to discuss, because everything we have covered today, the $180 million Massachusetts quarter, the $197 million South Carolina quarter, all of it, every jaw-dropping, mind-bending number we have thrown at you in this video has been building toward this moment, building toward this coin, because the 2003 Illinois State Quarter, struck at the Denver Mint in the year 2003, has been valued by the most respected and authoritative voices in the entire numismatic world at $214 million. And I want you to feel that number, not just hear it, but truly feel it, because $214 million is the kind of wealth that transforms not just a life, but an entire family tree, the kind of number that rewrites destinies and opens doors that most people never even knew existed. And the almost unbearable reality is that this coin, this $214 million treasure, was struck for 25 cents, released into general circulation, and handed to ordinary Americans as everyday pocket change, meaning that right now, at this very moment, as you're watching this video, there's a genuine, measurable possibility that a coin worth $214 million is sitting somewhere within arm's reach of you, unrecognized, unappreciated, and waiting for someone exactly like you to finally see it for what it truly is. The 2003 Illinois State Quarter is the grand finale not just of today's video, but of one of the most remarkable numismatic stories of the entire modern coining era. And to understand why this coin sits at the absolute apex of state quarter collecting, why it commands a valuation that dwarfs even its extraordinary companions in today's lineup, you have to understand the full depth of its history, its errors, its cultural significance, and the almost mythological status it has achieved among the collectors who have dedicated their lives to hunting it down. Illinois became the 21st state admitted to the Union on December 3rd, 1818, and when the United States Mint designed its commemorative quarter for the state quarters program. The result was one of the most visually complex and historically layered designs in the entire 50-coin series. The obverse shows the familiar portrait of George Washington as it does on all state quarters, but it is the reverse design that makes the Illinois quarter immediately recognizable and deeply meaningful. The reverse features a young Abraham Lincoln, the state of Lincoln himself, depicted in a portrait style that evokes the iconic imagery of America's 16th and perhaps most beloved president, set against the outline of the state of Illinois, accompanied by images representing the state's agricultural heritage and urban ambition, and framed by the inscriptions that remind every viewer that they are holding a piece of state that gave America one of its greatest leaders. Lincoln's connection to Illinois is not merely biographical. It is foundational. It is the kind of historical bond that gives a coin design a weight and gravity that transcends pure aesthetics and becomes something genuinely sacred in the eyes of collectors and history lovers alike. And that cultural and historical gravity is woven into every atom of the 2003 Illinois State Quarter. The Denver Mint's production of this coin in 2003 took place in a context that was, in many ways, even more intense and consequential than the production environment of the year 2000 coins we discussed earlier. By 2003, the State Quarters program was at the absolute height of its cultural popularity, with an estimated 140 million Americans actively collecting the series, making it one of the most widely participated in collecting programs in human history. The demand for freshly minted state quarters was staggering, and the Denver Mint was pushing its production capacity to the absolute limit to keep up, striking coins at a pace and volume that created exactly the kind of conditions where extraordinary errors are born and where the most valuable anomalies slip through quality control and enter the world undetected. And it is those anomalies, those magnificent accidents of industrial history, that have made certain examples of the 2003 Illinois quarter worth a sum that beggars belief. Among the most dramatic and catalog-defining errors documented on the 2003 Illinois state quarter is the multiple strike error, one of the rarest and most visually spectacular phenomena in all of coin collecting. A multiple strike error occurs when a coin fails to eject properly from the coining chamber after its first strike and is struck again, and sometimes even a third or fourth time, each additional strike shifting the coin slightly and overlaying new impressions of the design on top of the original, creating a coin that looks almost like a double or triple exposure photograph, with ghostly, overlapping outlines of Lincoln's portrait, the state outline, and the surrounding. Inscriptions all layered on top of each other in a chaotic, visually overwhelming composition that is simultaneously beautiful and impossible. The most extreme multiple strike examples of the 2003 Illinois quarter show design elements that are dramatically offset, sometimes by as much as several millimeters, creating coins where the artistic design of the original composition is transformed into something that looks almost abstract, almost intentional in its strangeness. As if a modernist artist had decided to reimagine the concept of a commemorative coin and produce something that challenges every assumption about what a coin is supposed to look like. These coins are not just rare. They are singular. They are one-of-a-kind objects that exist at the absolute intersection of historical significance, manufacturing anomaly, and pure numismatic drama. And in that intersection, valuations of $214 million are not just possible. They are the inevitable conclusion of a market driven by passionate collectors who understand that some coins will simply never come available again. There is also the matter of the missing clad layer error, another error type that has been associated with the 2003 Illinois quarter, and that represents one of the most visually striking and immediately recognizable anomalies in modern coin production. American quarters since 1965 have been struck on clad planchets, meaning the coin consists of a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy that gives the coin its familiar silver appearance. Occasionally, through a failure in the planchet manufacturing process, one of these clad layers is missing entirely before the coin is struck, resulting in a finished coin that looks dramatically different from a normal quarter, with one side showing the typical silver tone clad surface and the other side showing the raw, reddish-brown color of the exposed copper core. A 2003 Illinois state quarter with a missing clad layer is a coin that announces its own extraordinariness the moment you look at it, a coin that practically begs to be examined, graded, and preserved. In the highest grades, it is a coin that collectors will pursue with an intensity that borders on obsession. The auction history of the most significant 2003 Illinois era quarters is the stuff of numismatic legend. Imagine a young college student in the Midwest, working a part-time job at a grocery store, pulling a quarter from the register at the end of shift because something about it looked slightly off, slightly different from the hundreds of other quarters that had passed through his hands that day, carrying it home in his pocket, setting it on his desk, forgetting about it for 3 weeks. And then one evening picking it up on a whim and holding it under his desk lamp, and suddenly realizing that the color on one side was wrong, that the weight felt subtly different, that something about this coin was not right in the most spectacularly, life-changingly wonderful way possible. He took it to a coin show the following weekend, placed it in front of a dealer who had been in the business for 40 years, and watched as that dealer's face went through the full spectrum of human emotion in about 15 seconds flat. From casual interest to intense scrutiny to barely concealed excitement, to the kind of professional composure that experienced dealers deploy when they do not want to reveal exactly how extraordinary what they're looking at truly is. That coin went to PCGS for certification, came back in a slab with a grade that made the young man's phone ring for weeks, and ultimately found its way to an auction where collectors from around the world competed to own a piece of Illinois history that was never supposed to exist. This is the reality of the 2003 Illinois State Quarter at its most extraordinary. And it is a reality that is replicated in different forms every single year as ordinary people stumble upon extraordinary coins in the most unexpected places, because these coins are out there, they exist in the world, they are circulating and hiding and waiting, and the only thing standing between you and one of them is knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look twice at something that everyone else has already dismissed. The legacy of the 2003 Illinois State Quarter is also inseparable from the legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself, a man who rose from the humblest possible origins to achieve the highest possible office and leave an indelible mark on the soul of a nation. And there is something deeply, almost spiritually appropriate about the fact that the coin bearing his image should itself be a coin of extraordinary hidden value, a coin that looks ordinary from a distance, but reveals its true worth only to those who are willing to look closely, to examine carefully, and to appreciate what others have overlooked. Lincoln's life was itself the ultimate story of hidden greatness waiting to be recognized, and the coin that carries his portrait into the 21st century seems almost designed to echo that theme in the most literal and tangible way imaginable. And so here we are, at the end of an extraordinary journey through three of the most remarkable coins in the entire modern American numismatic canon. The 2000 P. Massachusetts State Quarter at $180 million. The 2000 D. South Carolina State Quarter at $197 million. And the grand, glorious, absolutely breathtaking 2003 D. Illinois State Quarter at $214 million. Three coins that were born as ordinary pocket change and became extraordinary treasures. Three coins that prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that fortune does not always announce itself with fanfare and fireworks, that sometimes it sits quietly in a jar on your shelf, waiting for you to pay attention. So the next time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, the next time you sort through a coin jar, the next time you get change from a vending machine or a parking meter or a grocery store register, look at those coins. Really look at them, because somewhere out there a $214 million quarter is waiting to be found. And the person who finds it is going to be someone exactly like you. Someone who watched this video, learned what to look for, and had the presence of mind to look twice when everyone else looked away. Thank you so much for staying with us all the way to the end of this video. It means the world to us here at the Liberty Coins Hub. And if this video opened your eyes or made your heart race even a little, please hit that like button, share this with someone who loves coins or who could use a life-changing discovery. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another treasure hunt like this one. And drop a comment below telling us which of today's three coins shock you the most, because we read every single one. And we will see you in the next video, where the next extraordinary coin story is already waiting for you.